Welcome back to the Property Playbook. We're your hosts, Elena Sarditas.
And Erica Reddy-Chiquette.
And today we have a fun topic. Erica bought a house.
Yay!
And we're going to talk kind of about the process that she went through while buying the house and the process that I've gone through over the last week, because we're talking all things off-market properties.
Totally. And you know what? I think this is super important and really interesting because not only in, my home buying process did I realize the importance and the relevance of looking to off-market inventory, but I've started to see the ripple effect in clients, even since I've said, okay, this is how I actually went about it, where they've been like, actually, can we take this same, principles and go about it for our search? Because sometimes what you're looking for doesn't exist on the market at the time, and you still want to buy it. So how do you go about actually buying it? And so that's what I did.
So there's a couple things that you can do. Do you want to kind of go through what you did to be able to get the property? And then I'll go through my clients recently and what we did to get their property as well.
Sure. Yeah, let's go high level. So effectively what I did was I was looking at a really specific pocket. And listen, I think a lot of buyers, when they get narrowed down, myself and others included, you get to a place where you want to be between here and here and here and here, and that's your ideal. And I looked at that and went, okay, well, there really is absolutely nothing to buy. So how am I going to proactively start to figure out what to buy? And so the beauty with with what we have access to as agents is, we can look back into archives and land registry and, Geo Warehouse and all sorts of tools to better understand, okay, what are the houses? What are the lot sizes? When did they last transact? We can get a really good picture of a neighborhood. So kind of where I'm going with this is if you're feeling like you really want a house and you're trying to find a specific product in a specific pocket, like this applies to you, and we can help you with this same process that I did to you and to your search. And so from there, I kind of went, okay, in this pocket, what would be within, presumably our price bracket? I mean, you don't know what's happened to all the houses, but you can kind of go, okay, this lot size and these dimensions and this location should, presumably fall in our budget. And then from there, how do I go about getting in touch with these people? Because I want them to know that I actually seriously want to buy their home. And so in this case, it was really writing like a heartfelt letter, a genuine letter that had people pause, because everybody said to me, I mean, there's so many agents that put letters in mailboxes, and there are, but a lot of the time that's a sales tactic that doesn't actually have a buyer attached at the end of it. And so I was super genuine to who we were and what we wanted and what we were looking for, in hopes that someone got that letter and went, oh, wow, this is really different. I actually kind of want to call her. And I mean, some people called off the letter, honestly, just to say, like, is this real? And we don't want to sell our house, but we really want to follow your process because we really hope you find a house. So the letter really worked. So I guess genuine messaging is number one. And then patience, because some people got back to me and I was like, okay, whoops, like that house is out of our snack bracket, or, thanks so much for getting in touch with me, but that doesn't sound right. And worked through this process and was really fortunate to align with the right purchaser at the right time that was looking to sell, that we then engaged in a dialogue and a walkthrough and another walkthrough and a family meeting and the whole 9 yards to get to a place where the deal felt it was right for all.
They went to dinner.
We did it all.
They literally did a dinner.
Yeah.
With the people in the home that Erica purchased.
Yeah.
Because they wanted the house.
And fit matters. Honestly, at the end of the day, this situation was truly, yes, we were interested, and yes, they were interested, but on the same token, there was a lot more to it than just, okay, we want to buy your house and you want to sell your house. For them, there was the importance of the fit. And for us, there was the importance of the fit. And so there was more to it than I want to buy your house and you want to sell your house. There was okay, my husband's going to come over. My daughter's going to come over. We're going to spend time together. We're going to break bread together. Like, we're going to really make sure that this is the right fit. And I think, it reminded me a little bit of kind of back in the old days, and I don't say old like we're really old, but back in the old days when we used to do offer presentations in person, and you actually would meet the other agent and you would meet the prospective purchaser, and you would kind of have the ability to interview them and do your diligence. This was kind of like that. And it was really, really nice. And it took time, and it took everybody finding what was, a fair middle ground. And it took other agents involved in figuring out the appraisal. So in no way am I saying write a letter, buy a house, Bob's your uncle. It's super simple. There's a lot more to it. But the message here is, if you're kind of feeling stuck, I mean, I'm rolling this exact same process out with clients of mine right now that are in neighborhoods going, okay, here's my north, west, southeast, or I guess whatever order parameters. And I want a detached home in this pocket. And I'm like, great, no problem. We're going to roll out my exact template, this, that, the other, and we're going to see if maybe it works for you too. And I know you did this just the other week.
It's just a different way of buying. And you have to remember, you're approaching someone that not necessarily was looking to sell, but they were toying with the idea. So
Absolutely.
that's why your negotiation went a little differently. It was, let's break bread and sit together over dinner. It wasn't like, let's counter back and never meet the individual.
No.
So for myself, we had a client that was specifically looking on Palmerston. Now, if you know that street, you know I'm in love with it. My dream home is on that street. I've picked it out. Like I'm this close to knocking on that person's door and saying, this is my house. That's the only door I didn't knock on for this specific client. It also didn't fall in their brackets of exactly what they wanted. But my clients were looking for an over 32-foot lot on Palmerston, which is doable, detached home with the ability to build a coach house or a laneway home. So very, very doable on that street.
Yeah.
However, those houses don't come up for sale. Like, it's rare that they sell. And when they do sell, it's a specific buyer that's looking to buy on Palmerston. Because with the same budget, you could go to Rosedale. You could go to Forest Hill. It's just that house has a charm effect to it.
Yeah.
Like the house, the street has a charm to it that you're like, this is where I want to live. It's a certain demographic that will buy a $4 or $5 million home on that
Of course,
street.
it's a big investment.
Well, yeah, but because you can go anywhere else. You can go into Forest Hill. You can go into Rosedale. You can go into Moore Park. You can go into Lawrence Park. You can go into a bunch of other neighborhoods, spend that kind of money, and live in a fantastic neighborhood. You have to love Little Italy. You have to love College Street. You have to be in love with the lanterns on the street. Like, it's a thing.
You are, clearly. You're like, is anyone feeling like she's selling herself on Palmerston?
I love that street. Oh my God. And I think because I love that street, my clients are drawn to it as well, because I'll talk to them about how much I love that street. And then they're like, well, maybe we need to live there too.
Yeah.
So we had a client that was specifically looking on College, between College and Harbor, on the Palmerston section. Again, it needed to be a certain lot size. So I went onto Geo Warehouse and I looked every single listing up. There's a lot of them that are over a certain square footage, over a certain lot size, and started knocking on the doors, started looking at past expired listings, started looking at when did they purchase the property? Like, have they also made money now? Like, I can't approach someone that bought it last year or in 2021 and say, well, you sell it to me now at a little bit of a loss. Like, it's not going to happen. So we strategically targeted a bunch of houses. We strategically called a bunch of agents that had inventory in the past that maybe sold and maybe had a contact for a neighbor that was thinking about selling. And we managed to find 2 off-market deals on Palmerston. And we ended up getting one of them.
Amazing. No, and see, I think this is the thing is, I think people get afraid. Like, you get afraid about approaching people. You get afraid about whether it's, a letter, following up, door knocking, something like that. But a bit back to your earlier point, there are people that are interested in selling, and they also don't want to go through the process of selling, because selling a home is not easy. It's disruptive. It's a massive commitment. It's time, it's energy, it's transformation of the house. We've talked about this on previous episodes, like what it takes to sell your home. And, some people kind of go, yeah, if everything's teed up and I don't really have to do much, I love the thought of selling. But if I have to actually take this thing to market, I don't know how motivated I am. And you're never going to find those people if you don't find creative ways to find those people.
Yeah. And there is a portion of my business that I solely do off market. I know it messes with agent stats and people have such a big deal with it. I don't care as long as my clients find the home. So like and my clients have seen me do this. I'll show them a house on a street. And if a neighbor is walking outside and I'm like, that house might fit another client of mine criteria, or your client or the client I'm with criteria, I'll be like, hey, like, you're a contractor. Do you know if they're selling? Can you give them my card? Like, my clients might be interested.
Yeah.
And we've done deals that way where we've literally approached contractors walking in and out of the property and been like, hey, my client actually might want to buy this. Like, don't finish it yet. Let them choose the finishing.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get a good deal out of this.
Yeah.
So it's been a really great experience being able to show them something that's not available.
Totally.
Yeah. And it makes you look amazing too to your clients. Like, you're showing them stuff that, like, that client that bought on Palmerston, we found out after time that they wanted Palmerston, but I showed them 8 houses off market.
Yeah.
In the pocket that we were looking in, none of which was available.
Yeah.
So like for them, they were like, oh my God, we're seeing all of these homes that no one has access to just because our agent went the extra mile to find them.
Yep.
And like I have a client now, we're going to put their property up on the market this week actually. They bought it off market. And I remember when they bought their home, we were in the Record City Lofts. I don't know if you've ever been in them, but there's not a lot of them. They rarely sell, and the ones that are bigger are a little bit of a harder sell because you need a specific buyer for it.
Yep.
They want to live in a loft. They want to have that exposed concrete or piping. So I remember my client was looking at a smaller unit in that complex, and they were like, it's a good interim option for us. Mm-hmm. And we'll buy it, we'll renovate it, and then we'll move on. So I'm pulling the comps, and I noticed there was a unit in the complex that never sold. It was fantastic. Over 3,000 square feet. It was what they wanted. And I called the agent and I said, is there a chance that your clients want to sell? And they said, it's surprising that you called me because the tenants just gave us notice.
It's so interesting how timing sometimes can just play out so perfectly.
And I was like, can I get in? And they're like, well, it's still lockboxed from last time. The tenants have already moved out. Yeah, go in. I go to open up the lockbox. The lockbox was there for so long that it was like frozen shut and wasn't openable.
When they like rust and you're like,
how do I open this lockbox? Fun fact, there is a Harvey's around the corner, I think, or a Wendy's, something like that. They will give you free hot water.
Oh, hot water does wonders for the first person opening the lockbox.
I
For
took
the
it inside
second
to dry it up
person
afterwards.
that comes to the frozen, sealed, seized
it was
lockbox.
our property. Even if
True.
it locked up. So like we got into that property. My client's like, you really want us to see this? And I'm like, I think this is it. They saw it. They were like, this is our house right up the offer. Mm-hmm. And they bought it off market.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing because most times people, they know what they want in their minds, but they can't find it.
Yeah.
And if you're able to piece it together where you actually find them what they're looking for, like you were looking for houses for how long? You were like, what I want's not available.
Yeah. Probably, I'm trying to think now, truthfully, probably 6 to 8 months. Like a while. Like we were really narrowed down, but I think the important piece on that is it's getting that focus, laser focus. You know exactly where you want to be. I mean, we're not going to send letters to 5,000 houses. That just does not make sense. But when we get to a place that you're like, okay, there's 50 houses or 100 houses or 150 houses, that's that sweet spot to be like, okay, how do we get this letter to have the greatest impact? How do we have the door knocking to have the greatest impact? How do we find you exactly what you're looking for? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what's our price, what's our range? Like it is so, and I think the important part with that is that also gives the message to the prospective seller that like, we have not just canvassed 5,000 houses. Like you are one of a very short list of people that are getting this letter. And I found in my own process, sometimes people would say to me, oh yeah, well, I asked my neighbor if they got the letter and they didn't. And I'm like, yeah, because their house doesn't fit our mold. And all of a sudden they were like, oh wow. So like, this is for real. Like you really are targeting exactly what you want. And I think that's really important too, because I mean, if anybody listening lives in a home, even a condo, you can attest to how many letters you get being like, dear Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or dear homeowner, like your house is so this, that perfect. And I've got the buyer and please reach out. Like, come on. They don't. That's not what they're looking for. But when it really is so laser focused, I think it sends a very different message and it allows something like this to actually unfold.
Okay, I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you and I we've been friends for a while now, and we talked about this whole letter before it went out, and you mentioned that Graham was like hesitant about this letter.
Totally.
Okay, what was his hesitation? Because I'm sure a lot of people are gonna think the exact same way. If I show people I want this, I'm not gonna get a deal.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, Graham was skeptical, Graham being my husband, Graham was skeptical on a couple of things. I mean, listen, he was super supportive. He's like, you do it. Like, I trust you. You're the professional. But there was the part of him that I think a lot of you might be thinking too of like, I don't know, is someone really going to open up this letter and think it's genuine? And also like, if they do open up this letter and they do know that we want to be the buyer, well, aren't they going to add an extra, whatever, $250, $500 million on the price of their home because they know that we're a captive buyer? And well, if they, want to sell or need to sell, now they've got this opportunity because we're like a fish on a hook. And listen, he was right. There were a couple people that called and said, the one down the street sold for X and we would want Y. And in my head, I'm going, sorry, How? What? Why? Why would I don't understand? And so I said to Graham, yep, you're right. There are the people out there that are kind of like, listen, if you want to buy it at my price, you can buy it. And that wasn't what we were looking for. So you still have to be patient in the process to know that you're going to weed out a lot of, possibilities. Keep me up on your life story. Okay, great. I can do that, but that's not going to get the house. Pay me, X amount more than the neighbors. Okay, great. Well, that's not, a reasonable, realistic seller. And when we landed on the house and the sellers that it all came together, we were all in this to put a fair deal together for all. They needed to sell, we wanted to buy. It had all of the standard kind of principles, if you will, of a normal transaction. And then we figured out what a fair market value was for everybody involved.
I think that's where the conclusion comes to. Like, if you know and you're limited in your search parameters, like, I want to be in a specific pocket, I want to be in a specific street, I want a specific house.
Yeah.
You are going to pay for it. It's not someone giving it away.
No.
But it doesn't mean you're overpaying for it. You're paying market value.
Yep.
And everyone needs to give a little bit to get the deal done.
Sure.
Like, you got to give a little.
And I think the big thing being fair market value. So, I mean, we had a sense of what fair market value was. And so if somebody called and said, yeah, my neighbor sold for this and now we want this, in my head, I went, okay, yeah, you're a seller at a certain price and we're not the buyer at that price. That's okay. We're going to wait for the person that is the seller at the price that makes sense for us within the neighborhood. Now, listen, somebody else might choose to say, you know what? That's great. That's what the seller wants. I don't care if it's above market value.
I want the
house in the pocket. Fine. That works too. We weren't those people. So we had to find what worked for us. But I think the moral of the story is there are so many ways to put kind of this square peg that looks like it could be going in a round, oval, whatever, into a square hole. It just takes a little bit of a, different approach to get there.
And some time. Like, don't rush the search. We'll find something off market. We'll find something available that fits your criteria. The most important thing is just having transparency with your agent and telling them exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Because whether it's on market or off market, we'll find a way to get you that. We just need to find it.
Totally.
But if there's restrictions on time, like you need a house by a certain date, then yeah, there might be some compromises. If there's a restriction on location, like you need to be in a certain pocket or certain area, yeah, there might be compromises. But at the end of the day, like the more you give us to work with, the more we have a better grasp of what you actually want.
Absolutely. And I think too, keep in mind, we were doing this search as we were also in conjunction with a regular search of everything that was on the market. So the nice thing too, is you can also be running multiple searches at the same time. So you can be looking at all the present inventory, all the off-market inventory, and anything in between to shape your search. So it's not a one size fits all that, okay, if you're looking off market, you can't be looking on market or vice versa. I mean, I know that might sound like common sense, but I think for some people you might think, okay, is off market one search and on market another search? No, it's just how do we run everything in conjunction to, at the end of the day, find the right and the perfect fit.
Okay. Well, once again, it's Elena Sarditas.
And Erica Reddy-Chiquette.
And thank you so much for listening to Property Playbook. If you'd like to know more about Erica's home and how she bought this off-market gem or the off-market process at all, feel free to like, follow, and subscribe or send us a message.